Let me start with a situation most of us can relate to. Many factories say, we are extremely busy, machines are running, people are working. But still, they miss deliveries. Why does this happen? Because production is often driven by capacity, keeping machines busy, not by what the customer actually needs. And that's the core problem. Now here's the shift in thinking. In value stream mapping, everything starts with one simple question: what does the customer really need? Because unless we understand that clearly, we may keep working hard, but still fail to deliver value. Now let's clearly understand what we mean by customer demand. Customer demand is not just about how many units are required. It actually has four important elements. First is quantity, how much does the customer need? Second is time, by when do they need it? Third is mix, which products or variants are required? And fourth is frequency, how often does the customer need these products? Now this is very important. In many cases, we only focus on quantity, but ignore time, mix, and frequency. And that's where problems start. Because the customer doesn't just want volume, they want the right product, at the right time, in the right mix, and at the right frequency. And this is exactly what we need to understand before we design any process in Lean or VSM. Now let's understand why customer demand is so critical in value stream mapping. First, it drives takt time. Takt time is nothing but the pace at which we need to produce to meet customer demand. So without knowing demand, we simply cannot define the right production speed. Second, it defines the production pace. Instead of running machines randomly or based on capacity, we start producing at a rhythm that matches what the customer actually needs. Third, it helps us align capacity with demand. This means we balance manpower, machines, and processes so that we neither overproduce nor underdeliver. And finally, it prevents overproduction, which is the biggest waste in Lean. Because when we produce more than required or earlier than required, we create excess inventory, block cash, and hide problems. So always remember, customer demand is not just an input, it is the foundation on which the entire value stream is designed. Now let's understand the types of customer demand, because this is where a lot of confusion usually happens. First is external demand. This is what most people are familiar with, actual customer orders or forecasts coming from the market. This is what ultimately drives the entire value stream. Now second is internal demand. This is slightly different. Here, one process is acting like a customer to another. So a downstream process pulls material from the upstream process based on its requirement. This is the foundation of a pull system inside the plant. Now the third and most important distinction, true demand versus forecast. True demand is actual consumption, what the customer really uses. Forecast, on the other hand, is just an assumption or prediction. And many times, organizations run their entire system based on forecasts, which leads to overproduction and inefficiencies. So here's the key insight. Lean focuses on actual consumption, not just forecasts. Because only when we respond to real demand, we can create a system that is truly efficient and responsive. Now let's talk about the data required to clearly define customer demand. Because understanding demand is not just a concept, it requires actual data. First, we need monthly or daily customer orders. This gives us a clear idea of how much demand exists over time. Second, we need to understand the product mix, which SKUs are being ordered and in what proportion. Because customers don't order just one product, they order a mix. Third is delivery frequency. Are customers expecting deliveries daily, weekly, or in batches? This directly impacts how we plan production. Next, we need to know the working days. Because available production time depends on how many days we are operating. And finally, the shift pattern, whether we are running one shift, two shifts, or three shifts. All this data together helps us calculate available time and actual demand rate, which is essential for defining things like takt time and production planning. So without this data, demand remains an assumption, but with this data, demand becomes measurable and actionable. Now let's see how to calculate daily demand, very simple, but very important. We use this basic formula, daily demand equals monthly demand divided by working days. Let's take this example. If your monthly demand is 13,500 units, and you have 25 working days in a month, Then your daily demand will be 13,500 divided by 25, which comes to 540 units. Now, why is this important? Because this number tells us how much we need to produce every day to meet customer demand. And this becomes the base for further calculations like takt time, line balancing, and production planning. So always remember, if you get this number wrong, everything else in your system will also go wrong. That's why demand calculation is a critical starting point in VSM. Now let's move to one of the most important concepts in Lean, takt time. Takt time simply tells us the pace at which we need to produce to meet customer demand. The formula is very simple. Takt time equals available production time bhag customer demand. Let's take the example here. We have available time equals 420 minutes. Daily demand equals 540 units. So when we divide 420 by 540, we get 0.78 minutes per unit. That's roughly 47 seconds per unit. What does this mean? It means that every 47 seconds, one unit should be produced to meet customer demand. Now this becomes a very powerful reference. We can compare this with our actual cycle times and ask, are we faster, slower, or aligned with demand? So takt time is not just a calculation, it becomes the heartbeat of the entire production system.